The shadow Bruce Wayne controlled was an extension of the Knight, a disciplined, psychological weapon honed to Gotham's Gothic architecture. It moved with silent efficiency, a ghost clinging to the gargoyles of the Diamond District. Tonight, that shadow was shattered by a flash of light that felt less like a lightning strike and more like a dimensional rupture, immediately followed by the cacophony of hypervelocity impact. Batman's grapple line snapped out, pulling him across the rooftops toward the impact zone, the penthouse observatory of a LexCorp tower that had just become an unscheduled landing site. The air around the crater smelled of burned ozone and something utterly alien, not the familiar scent of Gotham decay. Standing at the epicenter, surrounded by shattered, reinforced glass, was a figure that should have been his reflection in a warped mirror. A Batman, but one built for war with gods, not men. The Apex Knight stood nearly 7 feet tall, his armor a stark, almost brutalist design of layered carbon nanotubes and reinforced titanium alloys. It wasn't the slick, optimized protection of the Hellbat, but a massive, blunt force instrument. The most jarring detail was the pulsating, deep violet light emanating from a cracked housing unit in the center of his chest plate, the visibly destabilized singularity core powering the suit. The hum it emitted was not mechanical, it was the sound of reality being stressed. His cowl was less an organic extension of the mask and more a helmet, the optics glowing a cold, analytical white. "Stand down," Batman's voice, electronically filtered, cut through the core's low thrum. "You're trespassing, and your signature is an unclassified reality threat." The Apex Knight didn't move, its analytical optics sweeping over Prime Earth's Batman in a fraction of a microsecond. Target designation, Batman. Threat assessment, low, non-lethal methodology, peak human, localized technology. Biosignature match, 99.998% Earth-X variant. Current objective, stabilization of singularity core. "I did not intend to trespass, local variant," the Apex Knight's voice responded, a deep, synthesized baritone that lacked all emotional resonance, a pure data output. "My temporal dimensional engine failed during transition. System power currently at 90.3% capacity, core instability rising at 0.05% per second. I require immediate access to a stable, large-scale power infrastructure for containment." The Apex Knight's internal processing systems were already cataloging this world. The sky is the wrong shade of blue. The architecture lacks the necessary structural reinforcements to withstand a multi-class Kryptonian engagement. Threat level tolerance is dangerously high. He looked at his counterpart, a man who, by all accounts, was holding a moral line that his own reality's version had abandoned decades ago, leading to the necessary escalation of his own lethality to survive. Before Prime Earth Batman could respond to the technology in front of him, the singularity core was something even he hadn't fully cracked. A massive, reptilian snarl echoed from the street below. Killer Croc, drawn by the sounds of the crash, was already scaling the LexCorp tower, his hide scraping against the stone facade like sandpaper. "Identify and classify, local," the Apex Knight ordered, his voice still flat. "Croc, Basilisk strain, enhanced strength, minimal threat to armored suit," Batman replied, already throwing 3 batarangs to create a sonic distraction. "We take him down, non-lethal, then we talk about that core." The Apex Knight's white optics narrowed, a near imperceptible flicker of processing. Non-lethal protocols on a Class 3 meta-human? Inefficient? Risk assessment of continued existence? 100%. The damaged singularity core pulsed harder, illuminating the cracked armor. In less than a second, the Apex Knight moved. It wasn't the fluid, graceful movement of Prime Earth Batman, but a brutal, hyper-efficient kinetic explosion. He launched himself from the shattered rooftop, not waiting for a tactical analysis, but delivering a single, calculated, armor-piercing punch to the ascending Croc's chest. It was a precise, non-fatal blow to the heart designed only to stop the flow of blood long enough to cause total system shock, instantly collapsing the creature's cardiovascular system and rendering him completely unconscious. The force cratered the brickwork Croc was clinging to. Prime Earth Batman watched, horrified. It was technically non-lethal but savage. It was an act of brutal efficiency and cold, calculated violence that violated the core philosophy of his entire existence. Croc didn't just fall, he slid, limp, down the side of the skyscraper. Local threat neutralized in 0.86 seconds. Efficiency rating 98%. Moral constraints do not necessitate prolonged engagement, the Apex Knight stated, landing softly back on the rooftop. That wasn't necessary, Batman growled, his hand already moving toward the tranquilizer dart on his gauntlet. On the contrary, the primary objective is the stability of my core. Any interruption by local, unprioritized threats is inefficient, the Apex Knight countered, turning his gaze towards the city lights. He was already thinking past this local vigilante, calculating the resource requirements of a full, dimensional core repair. Your energy signatures are insufficient. I detect massive industrial and technological reserves in the South Sector. LexCorp. Identify the head of that corporation and his primary motivation. I require a partner, not a conscience. Batman, the greatest detective, had just been analyzed, judged, and dismissed by a variant of himself who had sacrificed morality for sheer utilitarian efficiency. The Apex Knight's sheer presence and the methods he was willing to employ immediately forced Bruce Wayne to grapple with his darkest fear, the potential for absolute control and tyranny that he could embody if he ever let go of the line. The clock on his no-kill rule was ticking, and this armored doppelganger was holding the bomb. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Hope shines brightest in the darkest night. The journey back to the Batcave was a silent, tense standoff conducted through the shadows of Gotham. Prime Earth Batman insisted on moving via the city's underbelly, keeping the visible presence of the armored anomaly to a minimum, knowing the immediate chaos the sight of a second, significantly more powerful Batman would cause. The Apex Knight, meanwhile, had initiated full-spectrum passive scanning of the entire city during the traversal. Structural analysis of the city's infrastructure, inefficiently designed. Tactical analysis of local vigilantes' movement, optimal for non-lethal engagement, suboptimal for high-threat combat. Upon entering the Batcave, the Apex Knight's white optics widened imperceptibly as his systems began a new phase of intense analysis. He registered the colossal Pennyworth-class supercomputer, the massive custom-built vehicles, and the clear strategic layout. Resource allocation is surprisingly comprehensive for a solitary operator adhering to non-lethal constraints, the Apex Knight observed, his gaze locking onto the massive holographic display of the Justice League watchtower orbiting Earth. The reliance on symbolic architecture and psychological deterrence suggests a core philosophical weakness. Explain the operational parameters of the watchtower. My primary objective is a controlled stabilization and eventual reversal of the dimensional engine failure. Prime Earth Batman, already at the Batcomputer, didn't turn around. The watchtower is the base of the Justice League. You don't need to know its parameters. You need to know that this is my world, and you are currently my guest. Your armor's energy signature is a blend of extra-dimensional force and localized motherbox technology. How did you acquire it? The Apex Knight moved to the back computer, his armored fingers brushing the keyboard with astonishing precision, bypassing several of Bruce's passive security layers in under a second. The Motherbox technology was reverse-engineered from a captured Apocalypse skirmisher on Earth X. It provided the necessary dimensional lensing to initiate the jump. The core itself is a controlled singularity. Its failure is likely due to the inherent instability of your universe's speed force and its unknown influence on all forms of concentrated energy. I have already cross-referenced all known dimensional anomalies on your planet. All seem tied to chronal acceleration or deceleration, all related to the same ubiquitous energy source. Alfred Pennyworth, having discreetly entered the cave with 2 cups of Earl Grey, paused, his expression unreadable. A controlled singularity core, sir? That is perhaps the first time I have ever been unnerved by a conversation in this cave. The Apex Knight registered Alfred. Biosignature, elderly male, skill set, highly proficient in logistics, medical, and psychological conditioning. Emotional value to host, high, a potential vulnerability. He ignored the butler, focusing solely on the data appearing on the screen, revealing his unauthorized deep scan of Prime Earth's continuity. "Get off my system," Batman growled, finally turning. "Your systems are already compromised," the Apex Knight stated flatly. "I have located the most concentrated source of high-yield, stable power infrastructure that can facilitate a temporary, containment-level repair. LexCorp, specifically Lex Luthor's private fusion reactor complex beneath Metropolis. I also detected a secondary, equally viable option, the Green Lantern Central Power Battery on OA. Which option presents the higher risk of failure, and which has the lower risk of collateral damage to local populations? The central battery is off-limits. Luthor is a megalomaniac who sees Superman as a threat, and the Justice League as aliens, Batman countered, his suspicion hitting a new peak. He will try to use you. He will try to weaponize your core. Weaponization is irrelevant. My core is my weapon, the Apex Knight retorted. Luthor's megalomania makes him predictable. His hatred for the alien gods aligns with his self-preservation instinct, making him a viable means to my necessary end, core stabilization. My Earth X principle is simple: maximum efficiency, minimum ethical compromise. Luthor's resources are the fastest route to stabilizing the singularity. The confrontation intensified, not with a physical blow, but a fundamental philosophical clash. You killed Croc's system. That's not minimum ethical compromise, it's a violation of the only thing that separates us from the monsters, Batman challenged. I initiated a temporary, non-permanent cardiovascular shutdown, the Apex Knight corrected, his voice a machine of logic. Croc has a 97% chance of recovery in a local medical facility within 2 weeks. My singularity core had a 40% chance of catastrophic multi-block explosion upon failure. One must be sacrificed to save the many, even if the sacrifice is moral comfort. That is the prime directive of true heroism. Batman took a step closer, his eyes narrowing to slits. I have contingency plans for you now. You move toward Luthor, you move toward a red sun, and I will be waiting. Contingencies are born from the fear of failure, not the commitment to success. The Apex Knight dismissed, the white light of his eyes burning with an almost zealous conviction. He knew he had lost his Earth's battle by clinging to principles. He would not lose this one. I will be gone from your universe within a week. I need the energy, and Luthor has it. With that, the Apex Knight activated a highly focused version of his suit's cloaking field, an advanced metamaterial shimmer that rendered him almost invisible to the naked eye, even Bruce's. He then used his thrusters to blast through an unused ventilation shaft in the cave's upper chamber, ascending toward the surface. Batman watched the gaping hole in the roof, a wave of profound dread washing over him. He was a creature of preparation and control, and this new variable, a version of himself without moral restraint, wielding a catastrophic power source and driven by pure, brutal efficiency, was the one enemy he had no precedent for. The sound of the Apex Knight's blast immediately registered on the Watchtower's deep spectrum sensors, the surge of extra-dimensional energy sending a critical alert directly to the Justice League's main console. The first alarm had been triggered, not by a villain, but by a twisted reflection of their greatest ally. The Apex Knight did not rely on subtlety for his grand entrance to LexCorp. He simply flew, his singularity core now shielded by an emergency carbon composite plating, following the massive power conduits running from Metropolis's central hub directly to Luthor's sub-city reactor. He breached the heavily fortified subterranean complex with a single, controlled blast of focused sonic energy, carving a perfect circular entry point through 3 feet of Lex steel. The ensuing alarms were loud, immediate, and utterly meaningless to him. Within minutes, the Knight had neutralized the entire floor's security detachment, utilizing his armor's precise, non-lethal pulse cannons, which overloaded the nervous system of each guard simultaneously, rendering them comatose. He was a force of nature driven by an algorithm. No unnecessary damage to infrastructure, no permanent harm to organics, maximum rate of approach to power source. Intriguing, a smooth, synthesized voice cut through the alarm system's speakers. Lex Luthor himself, impeccably dressed and sitting at a holographic workstation, appeared as an illuminated projection on the wall of the reactor core chamber. A variant of our beloved Dark Knight, but with a palpable desire for power rather than mere theater. You are clearly not from this dimension. That energy signature is a beautiful, unstable mess. The Apex Knight paused his methodical deactivation of the reactor's initial failsafes. Luthor, primary objective, temporary stabilization of the singularity core using your high-yield fusion reactor output. Secondary objective, acquisition of mother box schematics to permanently repair dimensional drive. Tertiary objective, non-interference from Justice League. Luthor leaned forward in his projection, a slow, predatory smile spreading across his face. You speak my language, Batman. Efficiency, power, and a mutual contempt for those who pretend to be gods. The Justice League will be here soon. What makes you think I would help you? You will help me because my core's containment failure will cause a localized multi-city extinction event. Such an event would destroy your assets, your laboratories, and your entire ego, the Apex Knight stated, his voice a dispassionate judgment. Furthermore, my resources, the hyper-advanced tactical AI, the interdimensional intelligence on multi-universal threats, and the sheer power are the ultimate checkmate on the alien in the sky. I am your contingency plan, Lex Luthor, and you in turn are the only immediate power supply that guarantees my survival. This is not a negotiation, it is a declaration of mutually assured benefit. Luthor laughed, a genuine, delighted sound that echoed in the vast chamber. Magnificent. I always knew the true, uncorrupted mind of a Batman would eventually see the utility in pragmatism. But I am not without conditions. I need data on that singularity core. I need a promise that when you leave behind one functional piece of your technology that I can reverse engineer. And, critically, I need you to prove your commitment to the greater good, the one without the constraints of an insipid moral code. The Apex Knight's optics scanned the projection. Luthor's proposal is 85% viable. The request for reverse engineering material is a high-risk liability, but is necessary for immediate resource acquisition. Agreed. You provide the necessary power conduits and schematics for the dimensional lens. I provide the data stream on the core's mechanics, and upon departure, I will leave one non-weaponized, localized tactical module. He paused, his gaze cold. Now, concerning the proof of commitment, your target. Gotham, Luthor said, his smile widening into a leer. The Joker has acquired a prototype LexCorp terraforming device. He intends to use it to turn a significant portion of Gotham into a toxic, living fungal landscape merely for the joke of it. Our own Batman is constrained by his ethics. He will attempt capture, and the chaos will allow the Joker to succeed. I need the Joker removed permanently. The city is a necessary liability, but its complete loss is fiscally unacceptable. Eliminate the Joker, and you have access to everything. This was the moral crucible. Killing the Joker, the literal embodiment of anarchy that Prime Earth Batman refused to cross the line to stop, would instantly solidify the Apex Knight's utility to Luthor, while simultaneously declaring war on his Prime Earth counterpart and the Justice League's entire philosophy. Elimination of the Joker entity, threat class, chaos incarnate, psychological risk minimal, utilitarian benefit maximal, the Apex Knight concluded, his voice utterly devoid of emotion. The task is accepted. Begin diverting power to the designated conduits. The Joker is now a prioritized target. As the Apex Knight turned to leave, the Watchtower's sensors began flashing red on Luthor's screen. Too late, Apex Knight. Your friends are here, Luthor announced, his smile now one of triumphant anticipation. I'll keep the power flowing, but the League will want a word with the Batman who kills. Above ground, the air shimmered with the distinctive sound of a boom tube opening near the LexCorp complex, followed immediately by the sonic boom of an incoming speedster. The Justice League had arrived, drawn by the raw, chaotic energy of the Singularity Core's jumpstart, and they were already on a war footing. The Apex Knight's alliance with the Devil was secured, but the cost was the immediate and certain confrontation with the gods. The sudden, chaotic arrival of the Justice League, a brilliant golden flash signaling Wonder Woman's boom tube arrival, coupled with the echoing thunderclap of the Flash's instantaneous deceleration, was almost immediately accompanied by the sight of Superman gently hovering, his expression one of profound concern and restrained power. They found the subterranean LexCorp complex in silent chaos, Luthor's guards unconscious, technology bypassed, and the Apex Knight standing beside a temporarily repurposed power conduit. Batman! Superman's voice boomed, projecting authority and hope simultaneously. Stop! We received the alert. What is that energy core, and why are you aligning with Lex Luthor? The Apex Knight turned his massive frame, his white optics scanning the trio, Superman, Wonder Woman, and the Flash, calculating their combined threat level. Justice League Trinity with primary Speed Force asset. Threat level, extreme. Lethal countermeasures are offline. Engagement is inefficient and unnecessary. I am not Batman. I am the Apex Knight, he corrected, his machine voice cold. The core is an extra-dimensional singularity engine. It is stabilizing. My alliance with Luthor is purely transactional, his power for my survival. I am not a threat to your world, only an anomaly seeking to return to its own. Non-interference is advised. Wonder Woman, her lasso of truth already uncoiled and held loosely at her side, stepped forward. An anomaly that utilized aggressive, lethal force on a meta-human in Gotham. An anomaly that has bypassed security and partnered with our greatest enemy. Your efficiency as a weapon, Apex Knight. Your methods are unacceptable. The methods are a consequence of necessary pragmatism, Amazon, the Knight countered. In my universe, The line you refused to cross became the very means of our destruction. Your no-kill rule is a philosophical luxury that this universe, given the scope of its meta-human threats, cannot afford. I am here to survive, to lecture you on the inherent inefficiency of mercy. The Flash Barry Allen, vibrating slightly with nervous energy, spoke up. Hold on, Apex Knight, your core's power signature. It's almost an inverted speed force. It feels like pure, stagnant energy, and it's messing with my localized time perception. Correct. And the instability of my core is directly correlated with your dimension's chaotic energy flow, the Knight confirmed, his analysis systems finally finding a commonality in the problem. The very existence of the speed force is acting as a disruptive, randomized gravitational field on my core's containment. To repair it, I need a localized, null energy source, something that can shield me from the kinetic reality of your universe. Suddenly the lights flickered and died. An oppressive silence descended, thicker than the alarm noise it replaced. The air grew cold, and the subtle scent of mildew and ozone filled the chamber. An entirely different kind of dimensional anomaly. John Constantine materialized in a puff of smoke and a cloud of stale cigarette fumes, leaning against a steel column. He was utterly unbothered by the gods and the armored outsider. "Well, isn't this a right mess?" the Hellblazer drawled, flicking ash onto Luthor's pristine floor. An angry, armored git with a miniature black hole for a heart. The wrong kind of magic, too. That singularity is bleeding extra-dimensional energy, but it's the wrong kind of bleed. Smells of the cold fires of the 13th realm, not your run-of-the-mill apocalypse tech. You're not just a technological anomaly, mate. You're a mystical paradox. Constantine's sudden appearance and diagnosis changed the entire dynamic. The Apex Knight's hyper-advanced AI had no viable counter for the sheer randomness of DC's magic. His predictive models, which could calculate Superman's movement patterns and Wonder Woman's strike angles, found nothing to categorize Constantine's arrival. Identify yourself. Your power signature is unquantifiable and disruptive, the Apex Knight demanded. Name's Constantine, and the fact your fancy computer can't figure me out is exactly the problem, the magician replied, taking a long drag. That core of yours? It's humming at a frequency that's already got the Lords of Order sniffing around. And if they get a hold of it, your core won't just explode, it'll unravel this slice of the universe and replace it with something sterile and ordered. If you want to fix that thing, you'll need a magical anchor. Something that can ground your weird technological paradox in this reality. This new variable was crucial. Luthor's technology could provide power, but only magic, the wrong kind of magic for the Knight's tech, could provide the stability to repair the core safely. Luthor's tech is a hammer, Constantine's magic is a scalpel, the Apex Knight concluded, his pragmatic mind immediately adapting. I require the scalpel. What is the transactional cost, Constantine? Oh, it's a beauty, Constantine grinned, the smoke curling around his face. The Lords of Order are only interested in control, but the Lords of Chaos, they want a new toy. My payment? You owe me one favor, no questions asked. And you need to convince that suit of yours that a little bit of chaos is the only thing that can save it. That means you drop the Joker elimination. You try to kill him, and you'll attract a whole new class of mystical entity that even I don't want to deal with. The Apex Knight was faced with a trilemma. Luthor's power, Constantine's stability, and the moral demand of Prime Earth Batman's no-kill rule. His pragmatism dictated that the stability offered by the magic was now a higher priority than the power offered by Luthor, whose resources he had already begun to drain. Recalculating objective. Joker elimination is non-essential. Core stability is paramount. Luthor's assets can be acquired through other means. The Joker is demoted from prioritized threat. The magic is accepted. Now, eliminate the Justice League's presence from this location. Their continued observation is an impediment to efficiency. The Apex Knights alliance had just shifted, and his primary target, the Joker, had been temporarily spared by the intrusion of DC's mystical side. The League, however, still stood in his way, forcing the inevitable, if brief, conflict. The Apex Knights' refusal to stand down immediately triggered the defensive protocols of the Justice League. Before the Knight could initiate any countermeasures, a red and yellow blur was already circling him. The Flash, using his super speed to generate a tight, focused Speed Force vortex, attempted to disrupt the Knight's armor, and critically, his singularity core. "Barry, hold back," Superman commanded, knowing the core's instability was a genuine extinction threat. The Apex Knight's AI immediately adapted to the Speed Force assault. Speedster frequency is predictable. Disruptive force requires focused, kinetic counterpulse. A surge of violet energy shot out from the Knight's gauntlets, not as a weapon, but as a precise, opposing kinetic pulse designed to instantly nullify the rotational force of the Flash's vortex. The resulting shockwave was non-lethal, but it blasted the Flash backward, sending him tumbling toward the perimeter wall. Wonder Woman moved next, a flash of Amazonian steel. Her bracelets clashed with the Knight's armored fists, the impact sounding like a hammer blow against an anvil. The Knight's strength, enhanced by the Singularity Core, matched Diana's divine power. His fighting style was pure, unadulterated efficiency, no wasted movement, every blow aimed at armor joints or nerve centers. "You fight like a machine, not a warrior," Diana spat, deflecting a blow with a movement too fast for the eye. "I fight to win, Amazon. Sentiment is a liability in combat," the Knight responded, delivering a stunning energy shock that forced Diana to recoil momentarily. Superman intervened, not with a strike, but with a massive, encompassing bear hug, intending to restrain the Knight and forcibly lift him toward the vacuum of space, far from Metropolis. "I won't let you hurt anyone," he grunted, the pressure immense. This was the core test, Kryptonian strength against the Singularity engine. The Apex Knight's armor groaned under the pressure, the cracked, violet core flaring dangerously. The Knight had one advantage: predictive lethality. His AI analyzed Superman's biology, the vulnerable points, the red sun dependency, the magic-level pain tolerance. It calculated a precise counter that avoided killing, but maximized pain and distraction. From the Knight's back-mounted sonic emitters came a highly focused red sun frequency sonic burst. It wasn't full red sun radiation, which would depower Superman, but a localized sonic frequency tuned to interfere with Superman's solar absorption at a cellular level, causing intense, agonizing disorientation without permanent harm. Superman immediately roared in pain, releasing the Knight as his internal systems briefly seized up. Constantine, who had been watching the spectacle with a casual interest, nodded. "Smart git. Didn't hit him with magic, just with the idea of red sun. Didn't kill him, just made him hurt. The kid's learning the game." The Knight, seizing the critical second of distraction, jettisoned a targeted smoke and incendiary device, shrouding the entire chamber in thick, black, obscuring smoke. Before the League's enhanced senses could cut through the haze, the Knight was gone, having used his thrusters to rapidly breach the remaining ceiling layers and ascend back to the street level. The message had been sent. He was not a villain, but he was powerful enough to walk away from the Justice League and their moral constraints. Prime Earth Batman, monitoring the conflict from the Batcomputer, saw the data come in. The red sun frequency sonic burst, calculated to the cellular level, lethality 0, efficiency 100%. Bruce's fear doubled. This variant wasn't mad, he was terrifyingly sane. The Apex Knight immediately pivoted. Luther's target, the Joker, was now necessary to force Constantine's hand. He needed the magic. He tracked the Joker to an abandoned chemical plant near the docks, a site Prime Earth Batman would be loath to enter, as it was a graveyard of his own failures. The Knight moved into the plant, his armor impervious to the corrosive toxins and Joker's trademark Smilex gas. He located the Joker, surrounded by the terraforming device and a cadre of cackling henchmen. The Joker, wearing a tailored purple hazmat suit, was ecstatic at the sight of the armored figure. "Another Batsy! Oh, this one's got shine. Are you finally gonna cross the line, Bats? Tell me, do you have a joke prepared?" The Joker shrieked, preparing a grenade. The Apex Knight did not speak. His AI had analyzed the Joker's threat profile. Non-meta-human. Threat: chaos incarnate. Psychological risk to innocence: infinite. Utilitarian solution: immediate, irreversible incapacitation. The Knight delivered a single, focused plasma cutter pulse from his fingertip, a beam of near-surgical precision. The pulse was directed not at the Joker's head or chest, but at the spinal column just below the cervical vertebrae. The action was instantaneous, clean, and irreversible. It did not kill the Joker, it rendered him permanently, completely paralyzed from the neck down, ending his threat forever without technically violating the no-kill rule, though his capacity to ever act again was nullified. The Joker's laugh cut off mid-giggle, replaced by a gurgling sound of agonizing realization as his body collapsed, a grotesque sculpture of perpetual silence. The henchmen scattered, screaming in pure terror, having witnessed not a brutal fight, but a clinical, final execution of a decades-long threat. The Apex Knight immediately activated his comms, broadcasting on the Justice League's secure channel. Justice League, the Joker entity, has been neutralized and rendered permanently non-functional. The threat is terminated. Non-lethal protocols have been strictly adhered to. Your crisis is resolved. He then contacted Constantine. Your condition is fulfilled. The Joker can no longer attract the Lords of Chaos. Your services are now required. Docks, Chemical Plant 7, bring the anchor. The Apex Knight had solved Gotham's longest-running crisis, not through morality, but through terrifyingly pragmatic violence, forcing the heroes of Prime Earth to confront the ultimate moral gray area. The paralyzing of the Joker sent immediate and deep-reaching shockwaves through every layer of the DC universe. In Gotham, the remaining henchmen and criminals were struck by a fear far colder and more profound than any induced by the Prime Earth Batman. They feared a consequence that was clinical, efficient, and final. The Bat family immediately converged on Chemical Plant 7, finding a scene that was not bloody but utterly chilling. Red Hood, Jason Todd, the only one among them who had crossed the lethal line and returned, stood over the motionless Joker, his helmet's optics wide. He didn't kill him, he just ended him. Forever, he found the one loophole. God, Bruce, this is what you fear. Nightwing, Dick Grayson, the optimistic heart, felt a wave of nausea. The act was a rejection of everything they stood for, a pure, brutal violation of the spirit of the rule, even if the letter remained intact. Oracle, Barbara Gordon, watching the feed from the Bat computer, saw the data and the raw, surgical precision. The Apex Knight hadn't acted out of rage, he had acted out of necessity, calculated by a flawless algorithm. The Justice League was in emergency session on the Watchtower. Superman was still slightly disoriented from the red sun frequency pulse, his anger mixed with genuine self-doubt. He stopped the Joker. He did what we couldn't do for decades. He ended the threat, But he did it with the cold efficiency of a god passing judgment, not a hero. Wonder Woman, always the pragmatic warrior, acknowledged the result. He chose utilitarianism over morality, but he is a warrior, not a tyrant. He adhered to the letter of the agreement with Luthor, then immediately shifted priority to Constantine's demand. He is predictable in his pursuit of efficiency, making him a complicated weapon or a dangerous mirror. As the League debated the moral complexity of the Joker's effective execution, the Apex Knight was meeting with John Constantine back at the LexCorp complex, which Luthor had hastily abandoned to avoid the League. Constantine approached the Knight, holding an antique, ornate silver anchor cross, a focal point for specific, localized magic. "The Lords of Order are having a right tantrum, mate. What you did with the Joker, it was too neat. Too absolute. It offended the concept of chaos itself. If you'd just killed him, they'd have laughed. But this is pure, unadulterated control. It's got a scent of the anti-life equation about it, and that's a smell the new gods can't ignore." The Apex Knight held out his armored hand. "The anchor. I require the localized magical stabilization. The threat of the Lords of Order is noted. My primary concern remains the singularity cause breach." "Right, here's the trick," Constantine said, placing the anchor on the core's cracked housing. "This will use the ambient magical energy of this universe, channeled through the cross, to create a temporary bubble, a reality distortion field that will nullify the effects of your Speed Force interference. But you need more than just stability. You need power, and I know where you can get the purest power source on this bloody planet, one that won't just explode when you plug in your core." Constantine pointed his cigarette toward the west, toward the American Midwest. "There's a little spot called the Rock of Eternity, Shazam's temple. That place is a nexus of raw, divine magic. If you can tap the power of Zeus, pure, uncorrupted, dimension-neutral energy, you can charge your core, fix your drive, and piss off every god from Apocalypse to Olympus in the process." The Apex Knight registered the data. Location, Rock of Eternity. Power source, divine magic, Zeus. Risk assessment, high, direct confrontation with a major power entity. Utilitarian benefit, maximal. The Rock of Eternity is the new priority. Luthor's fusion reactor is insufficient. As the Knight prepared to depart, the boom tube from Apocalypse opened, not with the clean, precise snap of a Justice League port, but with a tearing, brutal shredding of reality over Metropolis. A small, heavily armed strike team of Darkseid's Furies, led by the hulking, brutal Granny Goodness, emerged, their faces contorted with murderous intent. "The new toy belongs to Darkseid." Granny Goodness's voice, a screeching, gravelly sound, filled the air. The Omega effect registered the dimensional bleed and the core's unique composition. The Lord of Apocalypse requires the Singularity engine for the new Omega weapon. Yield, false Bat God, or face the Furies. The presence of the Furies and Granny Goodness completely escalated the conflict. Darkseid wasn't just observing, he was actively moving to acquire the core and weaponize it. The Apex Knight's initial plan for a quiet repair had officially failed. He was now a cosmic prize. "Constantine, your presence is an unnecessary liability. Evacuate," the Knight ordered, the stabilizing magical anchor already humming on his chest plate, providing the necessary shield from both the Speed Force and the Fury's initial burst of chaotic energy. "Wouldn't miss this for the world, mate," Constantine muttered, already chanting a simple, protective charm. "Just remember, one favor, you've still got gods among men to fight before you can fight the actual gods." The Apex Knight moved, not retreating, but advancing directly toward the charging Furies. He was a creature of technology, logic, and cold efficiency, now caught between a mystical conman, a cosmic tyrant, and a group of heroes who judged him by his means, not his results. His journey to the Rock of Eternity had just become a war for the fate of his singular core, and perhaps the fate of Apocalypse's ultimate weapon. The arrival of Granny Goodness and the Furies demanded an immediate, overwhelming response. The Apex Knight's armor, now stabilized by Constantine's magical anchor, could finally operate at full capacity, its processor no longer battling dimensional entropy. Target designation: Apocalypse, female Furies. Threat level: high. Strategy: overwhelming non-lethal kinetic force combined with precision-guided power nullification. The battle that erupted was a brutal dance of technology against primal, war-forged power. The Knight engaged Granny Goodness first, the Apocalypse commander, a whirlwind of armored brutality and whip-snapping force. Granny's power whip was deflected by a kinetic shield instantly generated by the Knight's armor, the resulting rebound snapping back and striking Granny with enough G-force to momentarily buckle her knees. Simultaneously, the Knight deployed his most advanced countermeasure, highly localized sonic frequency Omega disruptors. These devices were not weapons. They were highly focused sonic emitters designed to scramble the complex New God technology inherent in the Furies' armor and weapons, specifically targeting the vibrational frequency of their motherbox connection. Mad Harriet, the cackling Fury, found her razor-sharp claws suddenly losing all cohesion, folding in on themselves as the disruptor field overwhelmed the complex molecular structure of her gear. The remaining Furies, realizing they were facing a tactical and technological intellect that rivaled their own master, redoubled their efforts, their fighting becoming a desperate, coordinated assault. Lashina attempted to snare the Knight with her powerful electro-whip, while Stomper slammed her massive, gravity-controlling boots into the ground, attempting to create a localized seismic event. The Apex Knight's AI ran millions of scenarios, choosing the one that ensured the Furies' quick incapacitation. His thrusters fired, not for escape, but for a sudden, hyper-velocity close-quarters strike. He dodged Lashina's whip with inches to spare, delivering a precise, non-lethal cryoblast from his forearm directly into the connection point between Stomper's gravity boots and her armor, freezing the mechanism solid and rendering the boots useless. Stomper roared in frustration as her primary weapon was neutralized by a simple, elegant application of physics. Constantine, watching from a distance, raised an eyebrow. Now that's a Batman who doesn't muck about. Never thought I'd see a Fury taken down by a frozen boot. Before the Knight could finish off Granny Goodness, the Justice League arrived, this time with Prime Earth Batman leading the charge in a modified JLA Patrol Batwing, alongside Martian Manhunter, John Johns, and Cyborg, Victor Stone. "We are not here to fight you, Apex Knight," Prime Earth Batman's voice commanded over the loudspeaker. "We are here to stop the theft of an Earth asset by Apocalypse. We protect this world. Yield the core to the Justice League." The Apex Knight saw the situation immediately. 3 factions. Core objective: acquire Zeus energy. The League is a shield against Apocalypse. Strategy: temporary, tactical alliance with Prime Earth. Negative: the core remains my property, the Apex Knight transmitted back, activating a highly localized, powerful energy blast that took out the remaining Furies' communications array. But the Furies must be removed. Tactical objective: elimination of Apocalypse presence. Cyborg, your motherbox technology is the most efficient counter to the Furies' remaining tech. John, telepathic saturation to disrupt their coordination. Prime Earth Batman, you are the highest value tactical distraction. Cyborg was stunned by the immediate, accurate assessment of their strengths. His tech self was already analyzing the Apex Knight's disruptor frequency. He's right, Vic. That signal is designed to cut off their motherbox connection. We can hit them while they're deaf, Martian Manhunter telepathically urged. A tense, unstated alliance was formed. The League and the Apex Knight fought side by side, united only by the need to eliminate the external, cosmic threat. Cyborg engaged Granny Goodness using his superior motherbox integration to neutralize her remaining tech, while John's telepathic assault broke the Fury's battle coordination. The Apex Knight used the cover provided by the League to implement his final move. He activated his singularity core to its absolute limit, generating a localized boom tube field around the incapacitated Furies and Granny Goodness. This wasn't a teleportation device, but a one-way portal back to Apocalypse, a precise ejection based on a captured motherbox frequency. With a final, violent shriek of reality, the Furies were gone, leaving behind only the scent of Apocalypse brimstone and ozone. The moment the threat was neutralized, the temporary truce ended. "The threat is gone, now the core," Prime Earth Batman stated, landing his Batwing and stepping out, his suit heavily armored for the inevitable confrontation. "The core is bound for the Rock of Eternity," the Apex Knight declared. "It requires divine power for stabilization, a course of action dictated by your local mystic, Constantine. I will not compromise the safety of two realities for the comfort of your conscience." Cyborg, having run a new analysis, spoke with alarm. "The Rock of Eternity? That's the source of the power of Shazam. If you try to integrate that much raw, magic-based divine energy with a singularity core, the dimensional backlash could rewrite the whole eastern seaboard. It's too chaotic." "Chaos is the only counter to the Lords of Order, and the only path to a stable repair," the Apex Knight retorted, already taking flight. Martian Manhunter tried a last-ditch effort, his mind reaching out for the Apex Knight, attempting a full-spectrum telepathic probe, an invasion of privacy justified by the impending crisis. John saw it all, the Knight's desolate, war-torn Earth X, the necessary death of his Robin, the fall of his Superman, the creation of the lethal protocol as the ultimate contingency against universal failure. The Apex Knight's mind was a fortress of logic, but the deep, underlying trauma was visible, a profound, surgical incision on his psyche. "He's broken, Bruce," John transmitted telepathically. "He made a choice in his past that makes him incapable of trusting this world's hope. He believes his methods are the only way to survive what he knows is coming." The Apex Knight, perceiving the mental intrusion, delivered a final, stunning countermove. His armor released a focused telepathic feedback burst, a sonic wave specifically tuned to Martian frequencies that sent John staggering back in agonizing pain, ending the mental contact abruptly. "Do not enter my mind again, alien," the Knight warned, his voice a low, mechanical growl. "My reality's failures are not yours to judge. If you follow me, you risk the instability of the divine power itself. I am taking the core to the Rock of Eternity. Do not interfere." He was gone in a blur of powerful thrusters, leaving the stunned heroes behind with a technological anomaly, a mystical debt, and the heavy moral weight of the Joker's silencing. The Apex Knight's flight path towards the Rock of Eternity was a straight line across the continent, a streak of cold, technological violence aimed directly at the heart of DC's magic. The Justice League was split. Superman, Wonder Woman, and the Flash were already en route, attempting to intercept him before he reached the Nexus Point. Prime Earth Batman remained behind in Gotham, working with Cyborg and Oracle to rapidly construct a singularity containment field, a fail-safe device built from repurposed motherbox and LexCorp technology intended to neutralize the core's explosion, even if it meant destroying the Knight's armor in the process. The Knight, meanwhile, had begun communicating with Lex Luthor again. Luthor, watching the unfolding drama from an undisclosed remote location, was ecstatic. "You neutralized the Furies, Batman. Magnificent. You've earned your access," Luthor purred over the secure comm channel. "But the League is closing in. They'll try to stop you from touching the Rock of Eternity, not because they fear the blast, but because they fear the power you'll wield when you leave." "I require a distraction," the Apex Knight stated. "A large-scale, credible, non-lethal threat to draw the Flash and Wonder Woman away from the East Coast, something only they can handle." Luthor paused, then laughed, a cold, calculated sound of pure intellect. "I love this game. Very well. I shall unleash my prototype Amazo drones on the West Coast. They are programmed to mimic League powers, but are designed only for property damage and strategic, non-lethal mayhem. They will require the Flash's speed and Diana's Amazonian strength to contain without civilian casualties. That should buy you the necessary time. A show of force, compliments of LexCorp." The deal was struck. Luthor, leveraging the Apex Knight's need for efficiency, was using him to test his own weapons against the League. The Knight, in turn, justified the action by arguing that the utilitarian chaos would prevent a far greater catastrophe at the Rock of Eternity. The Amazo drone's sudden appearance in California immediately drew the Flash and Wonder Woman away, their priorities shifting instantly to the threat of widespread destruction. The Apex Knight was left only with Superman as a direct threat. He reached the Rock of Eternity, a colossal stone pillar seemingly emerging from a dimensional void, covered in ancient, powerful glyphs. As he landed, the very air crackled with raw, untamed, divine magic, a force that made his technological senses scream in overload. Inside the temple, the Apex Knight was met not by the young hero Shazam, Billy Batson, but by the ancient wizard Mamaragan, the source of the magic, who sat on his throne of stone, radiating power. "You trespass, armored one," the wizard's voice thundered, echoing through the cavernous space. "Your technology is a blight upon the purity of this power. You seek the power of Zeus for your singular purpose, ignoring the risk of an unholy union of technology and divine magic. I cannot allow it. Your refusal is inefficient and will result in the annihilation of a quadrant of this reality," the Apex Knight retorted, raising his gauntlets. "I do not seek to control your magic. I seek to integrate it into a self-contained dimensional drive. I will take only what is necessary for stabilization. Move aside, wizard. I am the keeper of the power, and the power must be earned through purity of heart," the wizard countered, and a single bolt of pure, white Shazam lightning erupted from the ceiling, aimed directly at the Apex Knight's core. The Knight, however, was prepared. Constantine's magical anchor immediately glowed, stabilizing his connection to the reality. The Knight had anticipated the wizard's attack, and instead of defending, he initiated a controlled, directional surge from his singularity core, firing it back toward the source of the lightning. The core's pure, condensed energy collided with the wizard's divine magic, resulting in a blinding flash that forced the wizard to momentarily shield himself. In that instant, the Knight bypassed the wizard's magical barrier, leaping toward the center of the throne room, the point of highest power convergence. He plugged his gauntlet directly into the conduit, diverting the immense, raw power of Zeus into his core. The surge was overwhelming. The violet light of the singularity core battled the white, pure energy of the lightning. The Apex Knight roared, a sound of immense pain and ultimate focus as his armor was flooded with the kind of power that could crack planets. Simultaneously, Superman arrived, bursting through the rock's roof, his face etched with determination. He saw the knight siphoning the divine power and immediately realized the stakes. "Stop! You'll destroy us all!" Superman attacked, not with force, but with the lasso of truth given to him by Wonder Woman as an absolute last resort. The lasso, which reveals the truth of the wearer, snared the Apex Knight's torso, its golden light immediately clashing with the violet energy of the core. The effect was instantaneous and agonizing. The knight's AI systems locked up, and his cold, mechanical voice was replaced by the raw, unedited voice of his human self, the broken Bruce Wayne of Earth X. The truth. I had to kill them all to save the rest. The Joker. He killed Dick. He killed Jason. He killed Alfred with the final Smile X gas. I became the monster, so the world wouldn't have to. I needed the power to go back, to stop the fall. The line cost everything. The power of the lasso forced the knight to admit the horrifying, painful truth of his reality's destruction and his subsequent moral compromise. His actions, the ruthlessness, the pragmatism, the willingness to kill, were not a choice of malice, but a desperate, failed attempt to save his world from total moral collapse. Superman saw the broken man behind the armor, the reflection of the tragedy he almost became in the injustice timeline. But he couldn't afford sympathy. The core was dangerously unstable, having absorbed too much Zeus power. He had to stop the knight. The fusion of the Singularity Core's exotic energy with the raw, divine power of Zeus created a self-contained temporal anomaly within the Rock of Eternity, a spiraling vortex of violet and white light that threatened to shatter the very fabric of the dimensional nexus. Superman, still holding the lasso of truth, was simultaneously horrified by the Apex Knight's desperate truth and compelled to stop the impending catastrophe. "I know your pain, I know your choice, but you can't let that power destroy this world too," Superman shouted, pulling on the lasso. The Apex Knight, his human voice raw and unfiltered, fought against the restraint, not out of malice, but pure, instinctual drive. "I must complete the cycle. The only way to stop the anti-life is to control the variables. Your world is unprepared." The wizard, having recovered from the initial energy blast, used the moment to channel his full power. He recognized the desperation in the knight's soul, but the threat to the Rock of Eternity and the magical balance of the universe was paramount. The wizard raised his staff and initiated the ultimate containment spell, a full-spectrum, dimension-locking magical barrier designed to sever the rock from all outside reality until the instability passed. This gave Superman the opening. Knowing the massive energy required, he initiated his most dangerous move, a controlled, non-lethal heat vision overload. He focused his heat vision directly onto the junction point where the knight's gauntlet was plugged into the Zeus conduit, a precise laser strike designed to sever the power flow. The impact of Superman's heat vision, combined with the wizard's dimension-locking spell, was the final shock. The connection exploded in a blinding flash of divine energy and temporal feedback. The Apex Knight's Singularity Core, having achieved a critical mass of Zeus power, instantly corrected its own dimensional failure and activated the repair sequence for the entire dimensional drive. But the Apex Knight knew the truth the lasso had exposed. His armor, his methods, and his very existence were a corrosive agent in a universe that needed hope, not brutal efficiency. His AI, now repaired and running at maximum capacity, analyzed the outcome. Objective, complete. Core stabilized. Dimensional drive, repaired. Secondary risk, high probability of corruption, and systemic failure on Prime Earth if methodology is retained. The Apex Knight made his final, most difficult choice, the choice that Prime Earth Batman would have made, but the Earth X Bruce Wayne had never been able to. He jettisoned his most dangerous assets. The Knight's armor began to shed layers. First, the Red Sun frequency sonic emitters were ejected, followed by the highly advanced Omega disruptors and the Singularity Core's data logs. These assets, now freed from the armor's control, began plummeting towards the Earth. "Superman! The core is stable. The threat of explosion is over. But the data! The data must be secured!" the Knight shouted, his voice a sudden, final transmission of the ultimate threat. "The data contains the blueprints for the Omega disruptors, the Red Sun frequency, and my AI's analysis of your entire Justice League's weakness. Luthor will acquire it. You must stop him." The Apex Knight, with the last of his energy, activated his repaired dimensional drive. The boom tube he generated was clean, precise, and immediate. A final, silent acceptance of failure and a final act of calculated heroism. He was gone, back to his own broken dimension, taking only the suit and the memory of this world's hope with him. Superman, shaken and injured, immediately realized the greater threat, the falling weapons and data. He knew he couldn't get to all of it in time. He transmitted a frantic distress call to Prime Earth Batman. The Batcave. Bruce Wayne, still constructing the containment field, heard the report. The data is falling in 3 separate locations: Metropolis, offshore, in the North Atlantic, and directly over Gotham. The fate of the Apex Knight's dangerous legacy rested on Prime Earth's heroes. Batman immediately scrambled the Bat family. Nightwing was deployed to the Atlantic to retrieve the Omega disruptors. Cyborg used his boom tube generator to intercept the Red Sun emitters over Metropolis, hoping his mother box could counteract the tech. And for the most dangerous piece, the AI data logs, falling directly toward the heart of Gotham, Batman sent the one person who understood lethal pragmatism and the need for control: Red Hood, Jason Todd. Jason, flying a fast attack Batwing, arrived at the point of impact, finding Luthor's stealth-equipped recovery drones already on the scene, attempting to snag the precious data stick. Jason immediately jettisoned the Batwing and engaged the drones, a savage, close-quarters fight for the ultimate contingency plan. He finally secured the stick, destroying the final drone. He held the Apex Knight's AI data, the ultimate blueprint for absolute control and the total neutralization of the Justice League. Jason had the power to make Batman's ultimate contingency a lethal reality. He looked at the data stick, then at the bat signal, illuminating the dark Gotham sky, and had to make his own choice about the burden of power and the cost of morality. The immediate crisis had passed. The Singularity Core was gone, the Rock of Eternity was safe, and the magical balance was restored. But the aftermath of the Apex Knight's desperate final act left a profound and dangerous legacy on Prime Earth. In Gotham, Red Hood, Jason Todd, landed on a secluded rooftop, clutching the data stick containing the full AI analysis of the Justice League's weaknesses, the schematics for the Red Sun frequency disruptors, and the tactical protocols for non-lethal permanent incapacitation. This was the ultimate contingency plan, a perfect weapon for someone who believed Batman's no-kill rule was a dangerous, unsustainable failure. Prime Earth Batman arrived, silent and grim. "Jason, give me the stick." Jason looked at the data stick, his voice low and conflicted. "He wasn't wrong, Bruce. He saw our future. He saw the Joker outlive all of us. He saw what happens when the line costs everything. With this, I could end every major threat in Gotham in a week. permanently, non-lethally but finally, and become what he became, a machine devoid of soul, operating on fear and efficiency, Batman countered. That power doesn't make you a hero, it makes you a judge, jury, an executioner who never has to face the consequence of his actions. I need the data, Jason. I need to lock it down. Jason looked up at the bat signal. He thought of the Apex Knight's raw, broken voice under the lasso, the agony of a man who had sacrificed his morality to save his world, only to fail anyway. That pain was a mirror to his own resentment, but also a warning. The Apex Knight's truth was that his methods, while efficient, had led to a world of total despair, confirming the utility of hope, however inefficient. Jason tossed the data stick. It clattered harmlessly onto the wet rooftop concrete at Batman's feet. Take it. But you don't destroy it. You keep it. You study it. Because he's right. The next time Darkseid comes, or the next time the Joker kills another family, this is the only thing that separates us from him. It's the ultimate contingency, and the moral responsibility of that choice is now yours. Batman picked up the stick, his jaw tight. The ultimate fear, the perfect tool to become a tyrant, was now in his hand, a burden placed on him by a twisted version of himself. He had gained the knowledge of absolute control, and with it, the potential for ultimate corruption. Meanwhile, on the Watchtower, Superman, Wonder Woman, and the remaining Justice League members processed the events. Cyborg was busy integrating the captured Red Sun emitters into a universal containment protocol, turning the Knight's weapon into a shield. Nightwing had secured the Omega disruptors, and the League had learned that their technology, their mother box connections, their lantern rings, was now vulnerable to a new, surgically precise countermeasure. He left us the tools to destroy ourselves, Superman stated, his eyes distant. Or the blueprints to defend against a future threat that our morality would never allow us to prepare for. He forced us to confront our capacity for tyranny. Wonder Woman looked out at the Earth. He was a desperate warrior. He proved that even a Batman must eventually choose between the power of efficiency and the burden of morality. His failure was not in his technology, but in his loss of hope. John Constantine, having fulfilled his debt, reappeared on the Watchtower bridge, lighting a fresh cigarette. The Lords of Order have settled down, but the Lords of Chaos are still buzzing. The Joker's silence? That's a fundamental shift in the universal balance. And the man who did it? He's back where he belongs, but he's taken the memory of your universe's hope with him. That's his power now, the power of a choice he finally made. In the deep void of space, beyond the source wall, the cosmic entity Metron, riding his Mobius chair, briefly observed the prime Earth. The variable has returned, but the legacy remains. The seeds of pragmatic tyranny are now planted in the mind of the Batman of prime Earth. He has inherited the ultimate contingency. The Watcher had only one word for the developing situation: inefficient. The Apex Knight's arrival was a single, violent stroke that shattered the comfort of the status quo. He was a terrifying symbol of what happens when a hero sacrifices his soul for the sake of the result. And that symbol, the fear of absolute power and the dark appeal of total control, would endure long after his boom tube closed. Prime Earth Batman now held the perfect weapon and the burden of his dark reflection's failure. The struggle was not over. It had only changed battlefields. The what-if scenario resolved its immediate cosmic crisis, but not without leaving an indelible mark on the prime Earth. The Apex Knight's journey, a perfect, efficient collision of technology and terrifying pragmatism, forced the Justice League to confront the ultimate moral grey area, the silencing of the Joker through calculated brutality. Superman and Wonder Woman were tested and found lacking not in power, but in their capacity to deal with a threat whose logic was superior to their morality. The Apex Knight returned to his broken reality, his singularity core stable, his dimensional drive repaired, but having finally embraced the ultimate heroic sacrifice, leaving the tools of absolute power behind, not for Luthor, but for the one man who could be trusted not to use them: Prime Earth Batman. The AI data logs, the perfect contingency for the League, now sit locked in the deepest vault of the Batcave, a constant, silent temptation for Batman and a living testament to the cost of crossing the line. The League is stronger, armed with the knowledge of their vulnerabilities, but now burdened with the ghost of a tyrant who could have been. The war for justice continues, but now Batman is armed with the knowledge of absolute control, and the moral choice of whether to ever employ it is his to bear. The symbol of the bat remains, but its shadow has deepened, forever haunted by the Apex Knight's perfect, desperate choice. Hope shines brightest in the darkest night. More stories await.